Yeah, I think that's
Yeah. Yeah, I like to just
we got more people than we had seats. John's is it okay? Because it's not 5 seats. I don't know. That wasn't there a second ago. What's this? No, we're good. Hey, how you doing?
If you need a table or something up here.
No, I'll be okay.
Okay.
Because I'm going to be sitting in the back. So I want
Okay, I'm like, I can't.
I appreciate it. Well, you know, it's great that Cobb County, oh, yes. I said, listen, we're at back. Great job. Your name was Joe Madison. They're all
John and I go way back. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the April breakfast of the Cobb County Republican Party. If everyone can grab their seats, if you need food, please grab your food, your coffee, your juice, and have a seat. We'll get started. Everybody grab your seats. We're on a tight time schedule this morning. I think we all have places to be. We have to get on the road for, so if you grab your seat, and I'm going to ask that Joan Montoy come up and bless our food, bless our county, bless our nation. Thank you.
Good morning. If you all would rise, I'm going to lead us in prayer this morning to open. Thank you, Salliegh, that you make this top of the morning, inviting God to be with us. So, Father God, thank you. Thank you that we are free this morning to gather, to express how we feel about what's happening in our nation, to hear the voices of those who are going to run for office, who are bravely stepping up and taking their place in the realm of government. Lord, I thank you that you have caused us to wake up. You've opened our eyes to the evil that's at work in our government, whether it's on the state level or the national level. It's been hard to watch. It's hard to hear the facts, but I know that you're moving. Thank you that you're moving us into action to preserve our freedoms, to preserve our Constitution. And Lord, so as we start this morning, the very first thing, we welcome you into this meeting. I ask, Holy Spirit, that you would move across this room, that every person who stands in this pulpit would feel your presence, Father, that they would know that you have called them, that you're leading them, whether you're leading them to win the office or you're just leading them into a path that you've chosen for them and even greater things than they could imagine. So I'm asking you to anoint every person that speaks this morning. Father, I know in your word in Psalm 68, verse 20, you tell us that you are a God who is mighty to save us over and over. For you are the Lord who rescues us from the ways of death many times. You promised us that you will crush every enemy shattering their strength, and you will make us the head and not the tail. So as we endeavor to follow you, to bring our government back under your hand, we say yes to you. Have your way in this nation. Preserve what you started and do it through us. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Thank you, Joan. That was beautiful. And I think we can all agree that our county needs us, our state needs us, and our country needs us. And we need the blessing of God to do what we need to do. At this point, we need to have we need to honor our flag and our country. And I've asked Mr. Ed Setzler to come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thanks, Sally. Before we honor our flag, I'd like to honor our veterans. So would you humbly raise your hand high if you're a veteran of our armed forces? Our nation and our nation's principles are under attack from within and from without. With that, we need to be more resolute than ever to honor the principles on which our flag stands. And with that, join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ed, very much. Now I have a special treat. Miss Lucy Lee is going to come lead us in our national anthem. And if you remember last month, her daughter led us in the national anthem. So, sorry, we're playing jumping jacks this morning. So if you would stand and put your hand on your heart, Lucy will, also she is the assistant treasurer, so she takes care of a lot of things that go on behind the scenes. We appreciate you, Lucy, and thank you for leading us this morning.
All right, y'all sing loud, okay? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, we've got a lot of special guests this morning, so when I call out your name, if you'll throw out your hand, and if I miss anyone, I would love it if you would let me know, because I certainly don't want to overlook anyone, but sometimes people sneak in. So it is my honor and pleasure to say that now that redistricting has happened, and hopefully, does everyone know what district you're in? Okay, not nearly enough people raise your hands. That's a little scary. Go to my voter page on the Secretary of State's website, put in your information. You need to know who your House District Representative is, who your Senate representative is, what commission district you're in, what school board district you're in. You need to know all that good stuff. So be sure and look that up. But in redistricting, Cobb received part of the 14th district, and it is my pleasure to have Ms. Denise Burns here this morning, who is the chairman of the 14th district with the GOP. There's Denise Burns. If you live in West Cobb, she is going to be representing you and dealing with GOP issues unless in that area. Then, and for anyone who doesn't know, there were elections last weekend. Was it last weekend? Have I lived that much in a week? For the district officer positions. And Lisa Atkins is here, and she's representing the 11th district as chairman. Congratulations. We also have Ms. Claire Bartlett, who's here, who's the past president of the Fulton County Republican Women. Claire, thank you for being here this morning. We also have Ms. Nancy Couch, the president of the Cobb County Republican Women, who is here with us this morning. I saw David Chastain registered, but I have not seen him this morning. But David Chastain is running again for post 4 for the Cobb County School Board. We all need to get out and support David. Also, I saw Pat Hartland registered, and Pat is an important person because he represents us. He is our only representative on the Board of Elections in Cobb County. So when you see Pat, give him a handshake and tell him thank you for his service. We have Mr. Fitz Johnson, who's one of our public service commissioners. He is also running for re-election. We have Mr. Scott Johnson, who is our state school board representative, who's here this morning. He's also a candidate running for Senate District 37. We also have Senator Kirkpatrick, who is here this morning. And I have to give Senator Kay special recognition for putting up with all my text over the last couple of weeks with House Bill 1013. And of course, we have Barry Loudermilk, who is here this morning, who will be our keynote speaker. We have Ms. Angelique Moore, who is here, who is running in State Senate District 6. And of course, we have Ed Setzler, who is here. Now, we have some candidates. Now, if you're a candidate and I call your name, if you would please stand so people can put a face with a name. We have Mr. David Delk, who's running for Senate District 37. Again on me, Dr. Fun Fong, who's running for House District 40. And we have Hanson, who's running for the 6th. We have Jake Evans, who's running for the 6th. I saw where Donna Kasicki had registered, but I don't know if she's here this morning. She's running in House District 22. We have Miss Anna Thompson, who's running in HD 43. We have Mr. Robert Trim, who's running in House District 35. We have Mr. Darrell Wilson, who is running in HD 45. And this is where it gets confusing, folks. Let me talk about 45 for a minute. You have the old 45 and the new 45, and then you have cold 45. In 45, we have Pam Allion, Darrell Wilson, and Mitchell Kay, who are the 3 Republicans running against 1 Democrat. And that Democrat is very tricky because he likes to paint himself red like he's a Republican. So that's a very interesting situation. If you're in House District, the old House District 45, raise your hand. Okay. Have you voted yet?
Yes. No. I'm the first one.
Okay. Well, the election is Tuesday. We are very low. We're just over 1,000 votes that have been cast in an area of 40,000 people. So you need to go knock on your neighbor's door, put your foot in the door when they try and close it on you, grab them by the hair and drag them to the polls if they're a Republican. Okay? We need to get out the vote for HD 45. We have resources available. We are happy to help. Cam and Mark Eistad are here that can help with I-360, so please remember to do that. We also have Alan Rohde, who is here this morning, who's running in House District 41. There he is. So in some of these areas, they are traditionally blue districts. 41, 40, 39, 30, and 37 wasn't always, we had a conservative there before. We have Tess Redding running in that race. So in some of these races that are a little bit disadvantaged, we think we can win them back. We at least need to make them spend their fair fight money. All right, so at this moment, I have a very special recognition, and I'd like to ask that Donna Rowe come up, please. As you may or may not know, Donna Rowe is the president of the Cobb Veterans Memorial. And Margie Medlin is also on the board. I think we have some other board members here this morning. If you're a board member of the Cobb Veterans Memorial, would you please raise your hand? Just on the advisory, Mark Johnson in the back.
Yes.
So we, in raising money, you saw how many veterans are here. And we have the oldest veteran in the whole world that's sitting right here on this table. I'm just kidding, not in the whole world. And Charlie Williams is one of our veterans who has been so dedicated to the Republican Party. And he has a birthday next month on May 23rd, so let's all remember that. But one of the things that's so important to Cobb County is having a proper Cobb Veterans Memorial. And Donna has worked so hard on this. Commissioner Joanne Burrell has worked so hard on this. And so when we had our Christmas event, we worked hard, the fundraising committee worked hard to raise money. And we want the Cobb Republican Party to have part in what goes on with our veterans. And we want to memorialize that with a contribution. So, Ms. Donna, it is my pleasure to present to you this check as president of the Cobb Veterans Memorial for $1,200 construction to go in contribution to the construction of the new park.
It is indeed my honor to represent the over 60,000 veterans that live here in Cobb County and over 759,000 veterans who went off to war to protect your freedoms. And I see you fighting for those freedoms every single day. And as a veteran and a Republican, I want to thank you for supporting this memorial. It is about time Cobb County has something. I travel the country talking about veterans issues, and when I come home to my own county, we do not have a county memorial. And believe me, we will with your help. Thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
And for all of Donna's hard work, she's a very special parliamentarian as well. I just wanted to give her a little something. So thank you for all you do for the party and for veterans around the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now it's sponsor time. Our first sponsor this morning, who's going to come and share with us, is Ms. Angelique Moore. As I mentioned, she is running for State Senate District 6, which is in the Vinings and Fulton area, and she's worked very hard in the party. And I've gotten to get to know Angelique, and I think she's precious. So she is a Cobb County girl, having grown up in West Cobb, so she's going to share with you for a couple minutes this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be here this morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak. And thank you, Chair Lady Grubbs, and thank you. Congratulations on your work to amend HB 1013. Very good. So my name is Angelique Moore, and I'm running for State Senate District 6 to be, not to be confused with Congressional District 6. District 6 includes East Cobb, Smyrna, Vinings, Sandy Springs, primarily inside the perimeter, and Buckhead, west of Rosman Road. It's 48% Cobb County and 52% Fulton County. And I particularly love this district because I'm from Cobb County. So I went to Calumet Middle School, North Cobb High School, and then Chattahoochee Tech and Kennesaw State College before it was a university. And now I've been in Fulton County and Buckhead for 25 years. And normally I work behind the scenes. So I got started 30 years ago plus while I was a naval ROTC at North Cobb High School, helping Meagan Grubbs. So in fact, I was honored to chair Atlanta for his presidential campaign. Excuse me. So the reason I'm running is to help constituents and represent constituents, to be available. And then also, I have the institutional knowledge to help get our money back here for our budget and our infrastructure, make sure resources are returned. And I have the relationships built over 30 years. So we are also endorsed by 28 state senators and many others, where when you call me for any issue, I can pick up the phone and try to help. I'm a regular person. I will always be available. I've been in your shoes, grassroots, like I said, for over 30 years. I'm always available and able to help. And please never hesitate to contact me with any questions. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And thank you for staying in your 2-minute time limit. I feel like Bob Barker, not to be confused with the Bob Barker that's here with us this morning, because I'm always looking at the clock, watching the timer tick down. If anyone would like to contribute to the Cobb Veterans Memorial Foundation, you can do that at the Cobb Veterans, www.cobbveteransmemorial.com. It doesn't get much more simple than that. So you can contribute online. I encourage everyone to do so if you can. We have, on my list, I have Jimmy and Kathy Eastham as sponsors. They are actually sponsoring for John Gordon. So his 2 minutes will be added to his time speaking as a speaker at the end. And at this moment, I'd like to have Mr. Darrell Wilson, who's one of our sponsors, to come and share with us.
Thanks, Salliegh. Good morning, Cobb County. How are you doing today? Let's get excited about what we're about to do, right? We're about to turn the clock back to a conservative America. We're going to make it safe for our families once again and keep our communities beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the red, white, and blue. There's nothing wrong with the reason we fought as veterans to maintain that. And more importantly, while we were over there, you were back here preserving that for us. So thank you very much from me and my family. So for the future, we want to look at our kids and what they're going to have to do when they grow up to be adults and their kids, and how do we preserve that future. There's 3 big issues in House District 45 right now. There's the cityhood, because we're concerned about what's happening in our county government. We see high rises and more intense zoning popping up everywhere. Just at the Cobb County Republican Women's Club luncheon, I was there, and right across the street from the Hilton now, you see all these quote-unquote affordable homes being built. And I've been through this before in Denver, and I can tell you that it doesn't work out well for us and maintaining the character of our community. So please get involved to help support. Either way you're on the issue, whether you're on the issue of for cityhood, that means you got to get involved with if you do vote for it. I'm not in that cityhood, but if you do vote for it, you got to get involved and hold people's feet to the fire and the promises that they made for your community. If you don't vote for it, you still got to get involved, because it's going to come back again. Taxes, senior tax exemption. I'm about to turn 62. Anybody 62 in here? Yeah, so you know where I'm on that, right? I've been here for 20 years. I'm not going to give that up. I'm tired. So fixed income, I'm about to hit that street, and I'm there with you on that. And so cityhood, tax exemption, then there's election integrity. That all means nothing if we can't maintain the character of our community and the self-determination of our vote. The sanctity of our vote is so important, because that's how you express yourself. That's how you get a representative to express your concerns and your wishes down at the state capitol. And so Senate Bill 202 was great when it was passed, but our work is not done. We have to continue to support election integrity efforts and do as many investigations as possible. My son used to be, and I'm finishing now. My son used to be on the election board as a Marine. He said he was the only voice there that was for more investigations. So let's get it right. Self-determination. We are America. We are free. And we're going to stay that way. God bless you. And vote Darrell Wilson, House District 45.
candidates, please don't forget to ask for the clothes. Good job. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you for sharing with us this morning. You know, one of the more difficult things about being a county party chair is being impartial, but then it also takes a lot of stress off because I love everybody. And I really enjoy different aspects of all of our candidates because they're members and they're workers and they're people that are passionate. And so one of the greatest gifts God has given me is the ability to be friends and not have that layer of, presumption that, am I supporting someone or something like that. So that's one of the bonuses. We're actually a little bit ahead of time. So our next speaker, who I love very much, and I'm in the 11th district, so I'm very appreciative of the work that Barry Loudermilk does. He is the consummate professional. He has an awesome family. His wife Desiree puts up with my Facebook posts, and he's just an all-around awesome person who's representing us from the 11th district. So it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Barry Loudermilk. And he's going to let us know what's going on in Washington, D.C.
Well, thank you, Sally, and thank you all for being here. And Lisa, congratulations on taking over the reins of the 11th Congressional District. Look, if you know me, I'm the eternal optimist, and I am really excited about the opportunity that we have to take back our nation. Like, there's an old song that I remember from the 1980s as a gospel music fan. It was by the Steels. And I pulled that song to it again. And the song is very applicable to today. If you get a chance, go on YouTube, go on iTunes, and pull up "We Want America Back." And the words of that song apply so much to today. And that sentiment is going across the nation in areas that I'm seeing from Washington, D.C., that we're seeing the numbers come in that Americans are being awakened to what has happened to their country. Something that many of us have been speaking about for 20 years, but we were considered a radical right. But now people are realizing we really didn't see what was happening to our country. And it's coming from areas that you never expected, areas in all generations. And so I'm really excited and I'm optimistic about where we're going. And a lot of people say, how can you be upbeat when we see what's going on? Look, no doubt about it. We're in a very bad place in this nation. A very bad place in this nation. But my dad was involved in something that was very inspirational to me. On June the 6th of 1944, American forces stormed the beaches of Normandy. And they took France back. The people of France wanted to be liberated. From their position under Nazi control, they knew things were really bad. And if you just look at the circumstances that surrounding you, yeah, it's easy to get depressed. It's easy to crawl into a hole. But yet, just across the English Channel, the liberators were preparing to invade Normandy. Now, if you know American history, we won. We won very decisively, but it wasn't without cost. It wasn't without damage. What I see right now is, in relationship to June the 6th, 1944, was when my dad, as a medic, was sent to England to prepare, to train, to prepare, unify, and get the forces ready for the battle that lay ahead. We're at that time period right now. During the last election, I went around telling people, folks, don't listen to what the media is saying, don't listen to what the pollsters are saying. There is a good chance that Republicans could take control of the House of Representatives. We will gain seats. Everyone else was saying, no, Republicans are going to lose at least 12 to 15 more seats, giving Nancy Pelosi even more control. I didn't see that happening. What I saw was people were beginning to wake up to what was going on. And what we saw was a surprising gain across the country of Republicans, at the state level and at the federal level in the House of Representatives. So it ended up through most of this last year and a half, the Democrats have only had a 3 to 5 vote margin. But people ask, how are they able to get done what they're doing? With only 3 or 4 votes, they give up half the time. The squad is driving their agenda, their far left, progressive agenda. It's no longer liberalism. It's socialism, it's communism. It's just relabeled. Now, we used to say that, and people say, oh, you can't say it's real communism. That's dead and gone. Excuse me. Communism has never left the planet Earth. It's just relabeled time and time again. It's interesting that if you look at the gap that we have, people are saying, look, we need to find a way to get along in Washington. There needs to be some bipartisanship. There is zero chance of bipartisanship on major issues in this Congress. Zero. And if you read anyone who looks at the political spectrum, whether it's Pew Research, which is a nonpartisan, or even more liberal-leaning media, they will tell you that the chasm between Republicans and Democrats is because both parties have moved in opposite directions. Now, they will say clearly Republicans have moved somewhat to the right, which is true. Since Nixon administration, every Congress, the House of Representatives, and to an extent the Senate moves a little more conservative. But the real chasm is because the Democrats have gone off the far left end, the deep end. Their ideology is totally different from the founding of America. We're going back to get closer to the founding of America, the Constitution, the true intent of the Constitution. And I'll touch on the Supreme Court nominee here in a minute. But, well, one thing, let me say this. One thing that is humorous about what's happened in the last couple of years is how we've redefined the American language. Some people feel like we really have to be careful what we say. For instance, my communications director, my press secretary, his name is Brandon Cochran. Now, you guys would love Brandon. He's got the coolest hobby ever. You know, 11th District, we have the firearms fundraising event where we go to Adventure Outdoors and we shoot, right? We have shooting hobbies. He shoots cannons, real cannons as a hobby, right? How cool is that? That's why he's on our staff, right? The man goes out and shoots real cannonballs at targets. Well, he was at a committee hearing with me in financial services, and I'm sitting right next to Maxine Waters because I was time I got done with my little debate with Maxine. I jumped up and I said, "Let's go, Brandon," and the whole place got quiet. It was like, what did he just say? But it's also changing a lot of things. I don't know if any of you guys are turkey hunters. Turkey season starts today, right, in Georgia. And generally in turkey hunting, you're only allowed to take toms, which are males, except for this year. Because I'm not a biologist, therefore I don't know the difference, right? So there is some positive aspect of where we're going. What this illustrates is the transition that we've seen in this nation. In years past, the difference between the Republicans and Democrats was how we would get to a common end. In a nation that is built upon the concept of individual freedom and liberty, that you are given the opportunity in this nation to seek prosperity, if that's what you desire. If you desire to live in your grandmother's basement and live off her Social Security income, then that's your right too, but don't expect to drive a Lexus. Don't expect to drive a Tesla. Expect to drive a bicycle. We had this idea of personal responsibility that went along with freedoms and liberties. You see, the progressive left, the communist element of this nation, no longer adopts the same end. We believe in individual liberty. We believe in individualism. We all don't follow the same ideas. I am a Christian. I have the freedom of religion in this nation because of our Constitution says I have the freedom to worship as a Christian, but understanding that someone who isn't has the freedom to believe and worship the way they want to. I would like to convert the whole world, but I understand that that is not my role. As a Christian, I am to spread the good news, but you have the freedom to accept it or reject it, right? You have the freedom of thought. When you have a free society, all we do is judge people upon their actions. If you violate the laws of this nation, then you suffer the consequences. If you violate the laws of an orderly society, i.e. you don't want to work, you don't want to get a job, you want to live off your grandmother's Social Security in the basement, then you don't reap the same benefits as someone else, right? There's consequences to your action. The progressive left no longer believes that. Their entire idea is that we have this homogeneous society of perfection, that there is no carbon output. There are no fossil fuels because they determine that is what is morally right. That morally right and wrong is determined by their ideology. And no longer are you held accountable for what you do, but more so what you think. That you are not even allowed to think differently than they, and that irritates them more than anything, is that you just don't wholly agree with their weird and stupid and crazy ideas. And you are to be held accountable to that. This is the direction that they're taking the United States of America. This is why we are extremely concerned about the direction we're going. Now, the good news, it's not just us in this room that's concerned. The polling data that we're doing nationwide is showing a massive number of people in this nation are very concerned about the direction that we're going. And it crosses political lines, it crosses racial lines, it crosses almost every demographic, that people are frustrated with the direction this nation is going. Now that puts a big responsibility on us. Because of the way the two-party system has been throughout the history of this nation, we're kind of to a point to where, look, most of these people aren't looking to the Republican Party as the savior. It's just, you guys are crazy, just not as crazy as they are. So we're going to give you an opportunity. This is where they're at. And I'm talking mostly about the independents who are really going to make a difference in this election. Now, we've got several things going for us. One, we still believe in those basic principles that have founded our nation, but we have to be able to articulate that to these people in a way that they fully understand the dangers of big government socialism. Look, there are people out there in certain generations, they really like the idea of the government dictating to you everything you did. They like the idea of government telling you how to think, because government was taking a liberal approach. And if you remember the old adage, if you're 20 years old and not liberal, you have no heart. If you're 30 years old and not conservative, you have no brain, right? Well, they were okay when the government was telling them the things that they like, that everybody had to do. But when the government turned around and told them, you got to take a shot whether you want it or not, that's when they started putting the brakes on. And it opened the door for us to say, this is the danger of big government socialism. Because a government that is big enough to give you everything you want is powerful enough to take everything that you have. A few weeks ago, it's been about 2 weeks ago, President Zelensky addressed members of Congress. I understand the Ukrainian people because I've been to Ukraine. I've been there helping set up churches and orphanages and charities. One thing I learned about Ukraine is when they gained their independence from the Soviet Union, they really desired to institute a government very similar to the government of the United States. In 2003, I went over there. I had formed some relationships with some people in Ukraine. In fact, we had started a ministry because the Ukrainian churches that were growing rapidly, everything from the Ukrainian Orthodox Church to Baptist churches, Pentecostal churches. I mean, It's across the board. Every denomination you could think of here, most of them were there starting churches in Ukraine. So my translator and I were walking around in Kyiv one time, and we were literally traveling throughout Ukraine. I had several meetings set up. And what we were doing is these churches knew that they were dependent on American funds. American churches were sending money to help operate, but they just didn't want to be dependent on American churches. They wanted to be independent. They wanted to be self-sustaining, but the problem is when you come out of a communist country, it takes a while to develop a free market economy to where they can be self-sustaining. So what we would do is collect used clothing here in the United States in these drop boxes, ship them over to Ukraine. When the clothing would arrive at the port, generally the Russian mafia would show up and try to take claim of it, but we found a way around that. Is we found this Ukrainian Orthodox church priest, which still the Russian mafia was afraid of those priests, who had also gotten an ordination as a Baptist preacher, so he's using the title as a Ukrainian Orthodox priest and creating Baptist churches over here. When he showed up to bless the shipment, they didn't touch it. All right? So, yeah, there was corruption in Ukraine. Most of the corruption that we saw then and continued on was still from Russian holdover of Soviet Union bureaucrats who had infiltrated the system. So they've been going through a huge battle to try to build a nation, and okay, every government does have a level of corruption, but it's usually within a specific sect. Well, as we were helping the churches learn free market and marketing and sales and things they had no idea of being under communist control, some found out that I had been traveling the United States teaching on our Constitution and the founding year. And so a president of the Hanson Bible College, former KGB officer who had found Jesus and left the KGB, formed Bible College, he wanted me to speak to the students. And I asked, what do you want me to speak about? He said, the founding of America. Okay, it's right down in my wheelhouse. Of course, when you're talking with a translator, a 30-minute speech turns into an hour and a half. But the students were just glued. They wanted more. As we traveled to different cities, each city we went to, I would meet with a mayor or some official. By the end of the meeting, that they would inevitably start asking questions about American history. It was intriguing. They were more interested in our history than most of the people in the United States. So I asked my translator one day, I said, look, tell me a little bit. He was one of the revolutionaries that helped overthrow the Soviet Union. He was in college at the time. And I said, as a big fan of Ronald Reagan, I said, from your perspective, was Ronald Reagan the one who was really credited for overthrowing the Soviet Union? You know, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. He said, well, it was an American president, and Ronald Reagan played a role, but he wasn't the predominant influence. Now that got my interest. Who was it? He said, Thomas Jefferson. If you remember, Gorbachev instituted, by pressure from Ronald Reagan, instituted two programs, Glasnost and Perestroika. Was freedom of speech, freedom of the press. Basically, it would equate to here. And what my translator Vova told me, he said, prior to that, there were certain documents that were banned in the Soviet Union. The Bible was one of those. He said, even though people would tell you no, they would have Bibles on display in churches for visitors that would come over. But the government controlled everything. Two other documents that were banned in the universities was the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. He said, during Glasnost and Perestroika, those became readily available. He said, until we were able to read those words in your Declaration of Independence, we had always been taught that the rights that an individual had and the freedoms that an individual had were dictated by the state. So he said, even though we wanted more freedoms, our fight was always to just change the government to a government that would give us more freedoms and more rights. He said, but when we read the idea that God is the one who gives you rights, and those rights cannot be taken, changed, or denied because they're given directly to the individuals upon creation, conception, that those rights are yours forever. That the government's sole responsibility is to protect those rights, and the government operates at the will of the people. He said that was revolutionary. That is what sparked the revolution in Ukraine and across the Soviet Union. As I was in one of the last meetings, I had to ask this mayor. There's a mayor of a town that was just outside of Kyiv, that was where they brought most of the victims from Chernobyl. And as he was asking me questions about American history, I finally asked him, I said, let me just ask you a question. Why is everyone here so interested in American history? And what he said changed my perspective. He said, because we want to become what you were. Did you catch a word there? This was in 2003. I had been talking about, ironically, in my talks about how far we had gotten away in 2003 from the principles of our founding. And I said, what do you mean by you were? And he kind of looked over toward where the border of Russia was. And he looked over, he looked at me, and he said, well, we're becoming what you were. You're becoming what we were. So I tell that story because I fully understand what President Zelensky did when he addressed Congress. If you watched it, he gave us a history lesson in American history. Did you catch that? He was trying to remind Americans of what we've been through. And what he was basically saying is, we wanted to become what you were, and we're still trying to become what you were. And we know, probably more than a lot of Americans, what you've been through to get there, and that's what we want. We don't want to ride, we want ammo. We want to defend our own liberties. They're not asking for U.S. troops, they're just asking for some help to where they can be independent. This is the spirit of Ukraine that I know, that the people I know there. And this is what I believe we need to gain from what we're seeing happen in Ukraine. Is that we need to get back to what we were when we're willing to stand up against the biggest bullies, the most difficult situations, take our eyes off the circumstances that surround us and get our eyes on our cause of freedom, liberty, and the Constitution. When we do that, and that's the history of the United States. When we take on insurmountable obstacles, we win because we keep our eyes on our cause, not our circumstance. If you don't believe it, just go back to 1776. When those men in Philadelphia signed what was basically a declaration of war against Great Britain, who was a more powerful military, were outnumbered, outgunned, outmanned, outgeneraled, outsupplied, had zero chance of winning. But they didn't look at the circumstances, they looked at the cause of freedom. That's why it took 8 years. But we won our independence. We won our liberty. This is the same thing that's motivating Ukraine, because even though our founders had it really bad under British control, the Ukrainians had it a whole lot worse under Soviet control. They're not going to go back to that. You want to talk about give me liberty or give me death? That's literally what they're doing in Ukraine right now. I would rather die than go back under the control of the former Soviet Union. This is where they are. And this is what President Zelensky was trying to remind us of where you came from. And as I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this, I'm like, this is our message for today with the political warfare that we're in right now to save our own nation. America is sitting in France in 1944, the beginning of 1944. We're the troops that are in England. It's time for us to get ready, because in November is when we're about to storm the beach. In January is when we start turning the nation around. But we have to have a plan. We have to be able to work on it. Now, one thing I'll give is I've been spending a lot of time with Mick Gingrich lately, and Newt is saying, Barry, you guys are right on the numbers right now. We've been working with him because he came out with this great idea of contract with America. We're going to be replicating the same thing, but taking a little different approach. We're not just going to be saying, these are the things we're going to do. We're going to be introducing the legislation starting day one of the new Congress. We're going to actually be putting on paper what we're saying, and this is our commitment. We've been working on it for over a year. We put up task forces across the entire spectrum of the Republican conference. I'm on a task force that's led by Jim Jordan, dealing with freedoms and liberties, and something else that we forgot about, personal responsibility. You see, this is something that the left has no concept of. This week, instead of dealing with the issues that are predominantly all Americans are facing, inflation, gas prices, international conflict. I mean, you go down the list of things, shortages in the grocery stores. Veterans are facing a serious issue that I have been working on with several others. You see, the Biden administration is violating the law by denying veterans access to private care outside the VA, which the law says that they have to recommend veterans for certain services. They are trying to put everybody under the total control of the government. Instead of having a hearing to bring the VA secretary in to say, why are you violating the law? The Democrat-led House Veterans Affairs Committee this week had a hearing on the dangers of extreme domestic extremism by veterans in the United States. I'm sorry, I don't think that's a major issue, but access to health care to someone who really needs it is much more important. Instead of dealing with inflation, and all of these issues we're facing are self-imposed. It's not an organic, natural occurrence of the economy. It's stuff that we've done by bad, big government, socialist, communist policies. The good news, all we have to do is undo it, and we'll get things back. But instead of dealing with inflation, instead of dealing with the causes of excess spending by the Democrat Congress, we had two hearings in financial services this week. One on the biasness and the racism of home appraisals, and the other is discrimination against minorities by overdraft fees.
Wow.
Neither had any factual basis of truth. But I made the point in the one hearing is they were bringing up statistics that minorities pay about 80% of overdraft fees. Statistically, we proved that to be inaccurate, but there was still a higher number than anyone else. So I asked one of the liberals that was presenting, I said, so let me make sure I understand this. So minorities pay a higher overdraft fee than banks in other districts. Oh, no, that's not what we're saying. It's about average. I said, so they're not paying a higher overdraft fee per overdraft? No. Well, then why are you saying that they pay more? Because they're overdrafting more. That's why we need to change the law. And I said, well, let me just say, if you're right, let me tell you something. When I was young and in the military, I wasn't a good money manager. I overdrafted all the time, and it cost a lot of money. But that all changed one time when my wife and I were checking out at a grocery store, and I had to leave a cart full of groceries at the front because they wouldn't take my check. Now, to their point is, all these overdrafts usually happen when they're trying to buy food or medicine and all that. And I said, that happened to me. But it wasn't buying the groceries that was the problem. It was the bad management I had buying other things I didn't need earlier in the month. When I'm going out to eat lunch every day and my colleagues in the military are brown bagging it. It was bad responsibility. Well, see, if you're in certain classes, according to them, you shouldn't be held responsible for your actions. Instead of dealing with these major issues like the shutting down of domestic fuel, the 18 bills that we voted on in the House this week that Democrats brought to the floor renamed federal buildings, put 2 more statues into the Capitol, and did a whole lot of things that were just administrative. But their number one issue, the Democrats passed was a nationwide legalization of marijuana. Now, some of you may think that's great. The problem is, the 10th Amendment really says that's up to the states. The way that they wrote the law is it circumvents state laws, and get this, even subsidizes marijuana production and growers by giving Small Business Administration loans to those businesses, even if it's illegal in that state. This was the number one issue for them instead of dealing with crime across the nation. Look, the American people are seeing this. And I'll close with this. One of the reasons I'm so optimistic, as Salliegh had went through the list of candidates we have here, we have awesome candidates running. We have a suite of candidates nationwide that are the conservative. Look, you don't find anybody running for office these days saying, I'm more moderate than he is. I don't care what district you're in. You're not running in a primary saying, I'm the more moderate candidate. I'm the one that can get along with us. It isn't happening across the nation anymore. It's the candidate that say, I stand for liberty, freedom, the pursuit of happiness, personal responsibility, lower taxes, and empowering the American people and instead of powering the government. This is what we're hearing, and this is nationwide. I know a lot of these candidates, almost everybody that's running for office, Ed and Josh and Jay, I know these guys, and I'm not trying to leave anybody out. I know a lot of them personally. I've served with them before. I know what they believe in. It's going to get ugly in the primary, as it always does. But we also need to remember that who you perceive as your political opponent is not your enemy until we get in the general. We have to be unified. We have to be of one voice, regardless of who comes out of that. And we have to show up. We have to show up in numbers that are historic, which means you've got to get out and you've got to get people to go to the polls. If you have to drive them to the polls, get them to the polls. But if you're going to make sure that you got to make sure they're going to vote the right way by sharing the idea of liberty, prosperity, and the one thing that will get the left, and it drives the left nuts when you do this. But you have to label what their agenda really is in a way that makes sense, even to generation X, Y, Z, wherever we are now, is using the term big government socialism. Because they've all been taught that socialism is good. That's what's happened in the schools. They've been taught socialism, that's where we need to go, is utopian society. But when you put big government on, they're like, whoa, wait a second. I don't like that government that told me I had to get jabbed. I don't like that government that told me I had to cover up my face. I don't like that government that told me I had to stay at home and I couldn't go to school. Well, you can't have socialism without big government control. When you start using those type of terms, they start listening. You may not totally convert them, but you know what they may do is say, well, I'm not totally sold out on this idea of conservatism that I'm hearing on the Republicans, but I know the socialism on the left isn't working, so I'm going to give them a shot. And if they give us a shot, then we get to prove them wrong and return America to a nation that is free, safe, and full of opportunity. At the state level, at the national level. I still think America's best days are ahead of us as we prepare now to storm those beaches come November, January. God bless you. God bless America.
Thank you very much, Congressman Loudermilk. We appreciate you and what you're doing to fight every day. The one topic that we didn't touch on was the Supreme Court nominee, so we'll have to do some more research on that. Thank you for coming this morning. You know, I wanted to tell y'all one thing. There was a notification in social media this week that Amazon, you can now use your EBT or food stamp card to order from Amazon. And some people may think, well, what's the big deal with that? Well, now you have Amazon, a home delivery company, getting rich off of government benefits. And, you know, when I had a family member years ago and who was on public assistance and they got a block of cheese, a 5-pound bag of flour, a 5-pound bag of sugar, and butter and milk, dried milk. And we've gotten to the point now that Amazon is helping become your daddy. And Amazon is so close to the government, it just kind of makes you think, how long is it going to be, or how easy would it be for the government to take control of Amazon? It's a very scary thought. So thank you, Barry, for talking about those things that we need to be concerned about. And how many people are poll watchers? Okay, thanks to Pam Reardon, Kevin, Nicholas, and the rest of the team on poll watching, we have trained right about 150 poll watchers. We need 500. Okay, so coming up in the elections to staff advance voting and day of voting, we're going to need about 500 poll watchers. So if you will please see Pam in the blue dress and talk to her about training. And Kevin's in the back. Also, I missed 2 people who came in late. Carminthia Moore's running for House District 45 in the new HD 45. Carminthia is in the back. Also, that is Sharon Cooper's district, and so she is running hand in hand with Sharon Cooper. And then I see Mr. David Bates came in on the school board, so thank you for being here this morning. Okay, and I thought everybody just had other places to go, but now that I know that today is opening day of turkey season, we know that you're all going out to hunt turkeys. But there's plenty in this room, so you don't need to go far.
Training, poll watching next training is April the 11th.
April 11th is the next poll watching training. Okay, we have a candidate running in the State Senate 6 district. That's Mr. Josh Clark, and he is going to come introduce himself and tell you a little bit more about his plans for, not Senate 6, I'm sorry. I'm looking at 6 people for State Senate against Raphael Warnock. So Josh, if you come on up and share with us real quick, we'd like to hear more about you. Thank you.
Good morning, Cobb County. It's great to be back. I'm going to introduce Josh because I've had a front row seat in his life for 38 years. And I want to share with you a little bit about our life together and why I think he's going to be the perfect, come the primary and general election, your candidate to take out Raphael Warnock. All right, so I have known Josh since I was 2 years old. I proposed to him when I was 5. Yes, true story. And what I fell in love with was his compassionate heart. I fell in love with his fighter spirit that he had in him, but that compassion side that looked out for others, the fighter that for those that did not have a voice. And so fast forward, we've almost been married 20 years come May 4th, and we have 6 children. We've built 2 successful companies together, and I literally have been by this man's side for my entire life. So if that doesn't, when I got to watch him firsthand, has served as our state representative for 2 terms and walk away unopposed. But he is that fighter that you're looking for faith, family, and freedom. So without further ado, Josh Clark for U.S. Senate.
Aren't I lucky? That's why I say she's my better 3/4. Well, good morning, everyone. Isn't it a great day to be alive, to borrow the words of President Reagan? You know what? It is big shoes to follow hearing from Congressman Barry Loudermilk. I love that man and his family. We were another homeschool family like his. And while he was in the Senate, I was in the House, and that was a privilege to work together on issues. But as Chelsea said, my name is Josh Clark, and it's a privilege to be here with the Cobb County Republicans. I have long looked up to you guys, and for the past 20 years, I grew up in Gwinnett County, and right out of high school, as you'll hear in a moment, I got involved for the sake of preserving liberty and fulfilling our civic duty to hold elected officials accountable, to get true constitutional conservatives elected. I've been doing that in the trenches since I got out of high school. And so how does that connect to Cobb? Well, Gwinnett and Cobb County were the 2 powerhouses that helped to turn this state red. And so we were always trying to outdo one another, getting votes out. It was a good, healthy competition. And so when I jumped in this race, the first thing I wanted to do was get to Cobb. So, but you guys have a very healthy party here, and you have a lot of speakers. So I'm so grateful to finally to get to be here. And from the moment I walked in those doors, I got to tell you, I was impressed. There's a fire in this room. And I heard it over and over and over again, talking about the leadership here and how you guys are determined to put Cobb, keep Cobb on the map, to turn out the vote here this election. So give yourself a huge round of applause. Thank you so much. I know what that's like because I've served in these roles over the years whenever there was a need. But let me back up for a moment. I'm going to share with you just quickly a little bit of my story, but I got to do it quick because I know there's a great lineup of speakers ahead of me. How many of you are ready to send Raphael Warnock packing to send him home? Yes or yes? All right, I am in the right room then. Well, I am the proven conservative by God's grace in this race that I believe that we're all looking for to get that job done. There's some nice people in the race, but I am, again, the proven conservative, and I ask you to do your homework, and I think you'll find that to be the case. I grew up in Swanee, Georgia, as the oldest of 10 children. My father was a pastor of a small church, and my mother was a teacher who, God bless her, decided to homeschool us. So I was blessed to learn real American history, and to learn about the founding of this country, and to learn about our Constitution, and to understand the biblical principles that were woven into the fabric that's allowed us to be the greatest nation on the face of the earth, to offer hope and freedom and liberty, and to be a light and a beacon. But I understood at an early age that, we have to fight for those things. I learned to serve at a very early age because my mother lost her health. And I'm the oldest of 10, so what do you think that means? When you see that slogan on the bottom of my bus, it means a lot of things. But overcoming together was something I had to learn at a very early age. And then learning history, I saw that every generation of Americans rose up to the challenges before them, and the challenges have never been greater. But as a young child, I learned it wasn't about me. I'm not the celebrity in the race. I didn't even get to play sports, even though I love sports and I've coached every sport. But that was a privilege, and we couldn't afford it, and we didn't have the time. But what I learned to do was to work, to serve. I got out of high school, and I helped my parents buy their first house. Gave them all my money out of my business till I was 20 to help them do that. And then I got involved in the Republican Party. I was either building companies, spending my time building our companies that are still around today, or rolling up my sleeves to turn this state red. While another individual, a nice guy, I'm so glad he's in the party and I'm about building this party, but while he was voting Democrat, I was helping turn this state red, trying to win this and fight for liberty and freedom. At 30 years old, fast forward, I was challenged to run for the state house. I said, give me a month, I'll pray about it. Halfway through, I said no. Because I just had my best month ever in business. I had my own plans, just like I had this year. It didn't include running for U.S. Senate. But God spoke to us. We stepped up. We ran a race that everybody said was impossible against who the AJC said would be the next governor. By God's grace, we didn't just win, but we won in a landslide. Victory 70-30. I served 2 terms, and I'm proud, by God's grace, of my record. I never forgot the words, first of all, my upbringing. And my mother, who at 6 years old, I said, are we Republican or Democrat? She said, we support the party that supports life. Life first, God-given right, as Congressman Loudermilk spoke about. But I never forgot that. I also never forgot the words of my brother, whether you agree with them or not. He's a fighter, David Clark, an Army Ranger, now re-enlisted in bad to the bone training. That's all I can say. He's about to be out. Was called into that. It was rescheduled. And he did what his country asked of him. But you know what? One thing he said to me, I'll never forget. He was 23 years old. And he called me up and he said, Josh, what you're doing is just as important as what I'm doing. Because if we lose this country, then my comrade who lost his life the second week is in vain. And so as I close this out, we've got some major issues in front of us. We heard Congressman Loudermilk speak about them. We got inflation. We got debt over $30 trillion. We're stealing from the next generation. Open borders leading the #1 cause of death. Sex trafficking that I fought, is on the rise. All these issues, family values are under attack. That's why you see our family. We're stepping up together on that bus, crisscrossing the state as a family to stand up for those values. But in closing, I want to leave you with this. I want to ask you guys, and this is serious matters we're talking about, but I'm going to leave a little joke with you. that you're welcome to share and borrow if you like, because it has a punch to the end. And that joke is there was a U.S. senator who was on his way to a town hall. He got run over by a Mack truck. He got before the pearly gates, and St. Peter said, do you want to go to heaven or hell? And he said, well, if it's that simple, I'll choose heaven. He said, no, you got to spend a day in both places and make your decision. So he went down, the doors open, and to his surprise, it was a beautiful golf course. His friends were teeing up. So he had a great day, and the angel says it's time to go to heaven. So he's out on the clouds with the saints worshiping the Lord, and he says, well, it's now time to make your final decision for all of eternity. He said, well, I never thought I'd say this, but seeing as that most of my friends are in hell, no surprise, right? He said, I think I'll choose hell. I said, all right. So he chooses it. He gets down there, and to his horror, his friends are in torment. They're on fire, and he feels like he's been lied to and deceived. Have you ever felt that way? Right? And so he goes to the devil. He said, I don't understand. And the devil said, it's easy to explain. Yesterday we were campaigning, and today you voted. So there's a red wave coming, but I'm asking you guys to do your due diligence. And I know you will, because you're here. You're patriots, sacrificing a beautiful day. But will you ask your friends to do their due diligence? And then will you consider us? You know, I may not be the celebrity, and I love him. I grew up idolizing him. He's my childhood hero. I'd run through the plowed fields, and I'd do push-ups, pretending I was him, but I never ended up fast and big and strong like him. But you know what? And it was hard to get in a race with my childhood celebrity in it. But it's not about me. It's not about him. It's about winning in November, defeating Raphael Warnock, and fighting for the next generation. Do you agree with me on that much, at least? So please pray for us. If you decide to stand with us, we're all in. We put everything on the line for this, for the next generation. Will you pray? Will you join our team? Will you take some yard signs on the way out? I'm headed to the GRA convention next. But my little brother Boaz, the youngest of our 10, he walked away from everything to join me. And the rest of the family, we all stand up, please, that are with us. But Boaz will stay here to the end to answer any questions. And if you want to speak to me directly, I know I'm applying to work for you. And I'm asking you to take a step of faith and look at my record and stand with us. But if you want to talk to me directly, he'll get you in touch with me. So thank you so much for all that you all are doing. Give yourself a huge round of applause. And I look forward to fighting alongside you. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh, so much. Our next speaker, we have a little bit of a change. This gentleman that is going to speak next, Mr. John Gordon, I met at the Election Integrity Summit that Jenny Beth Martin did, and really impressed me. Had no idea that he was going to be running for Attorney General. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. John Gordon, candidate for Attorney General, and he's going to share with us for a few minutes.
Well, good morning. It is such a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate your invitation. And I'm worried. I am worried about the direction of this country for all the reasons that Congressman Loudermilk talked about. And I have been retired for 2.5 years, and I have been admittedly living the good life. Because I started working, my dad grew up on a farm. So when I was a little boy, he taught me how to do the chores. So I literally started working when I was 12 years old. And my dad also then became a banker. So he taught me frugality and investing. And so I started doing that at the age of 14. So I, ladies and gentlemen, have lived the American. And I am so proud to be a citizen of this country. I am a lawyer. I believe in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. They are sacred documents, in my opinion. And every day we see little thousand cuts of death, and it's got to stop. So, talked to my wife of 43 years, and she said, John, if you're not going to do it, I don't know who will. I don't know anyone better that can do this. So I said, let's go. So I am a candidate for Attorney General. I have worked hard all my life. I've worked hard to raise a family. We have 3 wonderful boys. I've been married 43 years, 44 in September. And I have worked hard to build 2 businesses. I have worked hard to give back civically. I was the chairman of the board of Skyland Trail, one of the foremost mental health institutions in America today. I started a charity 16 years ago called Friends of English Avenue. We have worked hard to revitalize the worst zip code in America, which is right downtown, a half a mile from Coca-Cola World headquarters. And we have, I believe, made a significant difference there. There used to be an open heroin distribution system that was visible on the street corners. There was trash, there was rubbish, there was every social ill known to man. There's a lot of work still to be done, but it is an order of magnitude better. So I'm proud to have been able to work in that neighborhood and contribute to the betterment of our greater Atlanta community. For the last year, I have also worked hard on election integrity. I have worked with Atlanta lawyer Bob Shealy. We brought 2 lawsuits. We first, Jeffers versus the Board of Fulton Elections. And ladies and gentlemen, I have seen the evidence. I have spoken to the witnesses. I have watched the videotapes. I have looked at the multiple images of the same ballots on the Secretary of State's website. I have reviewed the forensic accountant's reconciliation of the votes. This is the pillar, the foundation of our democracy, and they don't care about stealing it from us. Not on our watch, ladies and gentlemen. I have worked hard for election integrity, which is more than I can say about my opponent, Chris Do Nothing Carr. He sold you and me out. He authored the consent decree that settled the lawsuit with Stacey Abrams, and in the process of doing that, he created this fiction of drop boxes, instrumentalities of fraud, pure and simple. And that's the message that we need to push back on. It's not voter suppression, it's voter stealing. And I am so tired of the lies and the manipulation, and I'm sitting down there on the beach wondering what the hell are we going to do about it, and I said, I'm going to go to work for you and the people of Georgia if you'll have me. It's disturbing to me, folks. The judges will not give us justice. We had a case before Judge Brian Amaro in Henry County. All the Fulton judges disqualified themselves, as they should have. And so we had this judge, and he seemed like a good judge. He ruled for us 6 out of 6 times. Now, I want you to listen to this. This is very important. This is what you got to tell your neighbors. We've got to push back against the media. They are lying to us. They are suppressing the truth. Judge Brian Amaro ruled in writing that we had demonstrated a prima facie case for fraud, and he unsealed the absentee ballots. And they talk about the big lie. That's the biggest lie. And we cannot let them continue to get away with it. So the judges won't do it, the media lies, and our constitutional officers have failed us miserably. So we're going to bind together. We're going to go to work. We're going to put shoe leather on the street, and we are going to restore integrity and honesty under the gold dome. Now, I'm also going to work hard to protect our communities. Under a John Gordon Attorney General, you will not see rioting and looting on the streets. And I will tell you this, if the local prosecutors don't do their job, I will do it for them. We are not going to allow people who break the law to get away with it scot-free. No more. We're going to stop the influx of fentanyl. We are going to stop the influx of thieves and rapists and criminals. If Joe Biden won't protect our southern border, I will protect the border of Georgia. And I'm also going to protect our children. I will seek an injunction against any educator who dares indoctrinate our children on critical race theory. I'm going to protect our children. I will treat as a child abuser anyone who tries to counsel a child under the age of 18 on gender identity. Now, I dared, ladies and gentlemen, to publish the truth. As God is my witness, I only published the truth. It wasn't conjecture, it wasn't opinion, it was fact that I learned through the process of litigating these 2 lawsuits against the Fulton Board of Elections. And Facebook canceled me like I never existed. After 20 years, I logged on one day, username not recognized, gone. Guess what I did? I sold every share of Facebook stock I had the very next day. We have got to push back, and I'm proud to say that stock, sorry if anybody else in the room has still got some, but the stock's dropped 100 points. Say thank you, Mark Zuckerberg. And I love soft drinks, but there's one that I refuse to consume any longer. I love to fly. I'm a pilot. There's one airline I refuse to fly on any longer. And folks, we have got to push back against this insanity, the untruthfulness and the manipulation that I see. We have all got to push back, and together we can straighten this country out and get it back on the right track. I dared publish a video on YouTube when I became a candidate for public office. 2 days later, Google canceled me, took it down. We have got to push back. There was nothing in that video that was not true. So you elect me Attorney General, we will push back hard against big tech, and we will defend our First Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights, and your vote. And that is my solemn promise to you. Now, I'm very pleased to have received the endorsement of Speaker Gingrich, Ambassador Evans, First American Veterans Association, and the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Now, I would be grateful if you would go to our website. It's very easy, jg4ag.com. And up in the top right-hand corner, there is a red like button. Oh, that actually is a donate button, but that's a like button. So go to my website and like us, if you will. And can I just get a JG for AG? And I appreciate your listening to me this morning and having me here for this wonderful breakfast. Thank you so much. JG for AG? Can I get a JG for AG? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gordon. We appreciate what you've done for election integrity. I know that there may be some who doubt what happened. I was on a Zoom call one day and was looking at some votes that had been made public online. And the real funny thing is you can see, because there was a stray mark, but the TIFF file where they had been scanned 3 times. So voter fraud is real, but you know what? We're Cobb County, and we are not issued a challenge that we cannot meet. So let's take that 150 poll workers that we've trained, let's get it to 500. Our next contestant, our next speaker, who I love these folks. They're good people, and I appreciate them being here this morning, Mr. Jake Evans.
All right, good morning, Cobb County. It is good to be here. Who is ready to turn back the 6th District red? Come on. Who's ready to take back control of the House and put it in Republican hands? And who's ready to send Nancy Pelosi packing in 2022? So I know many of you guys, and I think you guys probably have memorized my stump speech by now, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm an election lawyer. Fought for election integrity, fought for campaign finance transparency, fought for religious liberties. That's what I'm all about. My name is Jake Evans. I'm running for Congress. I'm going to talk today about what we're going to do whenever we take back control of the House and ensure that America is made great again. The first thing that we're going to do, and my goal when I get to Congress, is I want to be on the Oversight Committee and Judiciary Committee if I'm fortunate and blessed enough to get there. But first and foremost, we're going to disband the January 6th Commission. That is a commission. That's a commission that the Democrats created in order to weaponize the political process. I'm going to hold this mic. In order to weaponize the political process and victimize folks that are American patriots, and we've got to take that immediately out of operation. We also need to make sure that the folks, and some of which are still being held in prison, get due process that they're entitled to. The next thing we need to do is we need to launch an investigation into big tech. Big tech is an existential threat on this country. I don't think enough folks are talking about the dangers of big tech. They have the largest data repository. They know more about each and every person in this room than you guys probably know about yourself. And that is a dangerous, dangerous reality because they're working in concert with the federal government. And we've got to investigate the degree to which that they are violating our privacy rights and also censoring conservative speech. Hunter Biden, an issue that wasn't talked about enough in the 2020 election because the media didn't want to talk about it. The Bidens, what they are doing is they're exploiting their power, profiting off of it, and they're doing it through Hunter Biden's paintings that he is apparently selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There needs to be an investigation that is commenced immediately in all of the efforts that they are doing to exploit and profit off of power. The Clintons, you look at what happened one moment after another, the Russian hoax that they used to try to take down President Trump. And not only did they try to take him down, but we figured out this week that they tried to hide it. They tried to hide it by not disclosing in their campaign finance documents that they created the dossier, that they're the ones that used the dossier and also attempted to falsely expose President Trump. And we've got to use our political process and administrative process to investigate that and research more into it. But we're not going to stop there, because we are going to take back control of Congress, the House and the Senate, and then we're going to win the presidency in 2024. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to elect unafraid members of Congress that are going to get up to D.C. and expose the truth, expose each of the elements that I just talked about. But we're also going to force Joe Biden and his radical administration to show where they really stand. We're going to pass a series of legislations. First, that bans federal mandates on telling you guys that you have to get a vaccine, have to wear a mask. We're also going to, thank you, and that's important. We're going to eradicate federal funding for any school in this country that teaches CRT or any derivative thereof. We're going to pass all possible legislation to restart the Keystone Pipeline. Bring jobs back to America. Make America energy independent again. And this is an issue that, in my opinion, is not talked about enough, but is an issue that's been made front center in my campaign, which is protecting religious liberties, protecting the Judeo-Christian values that this country was based on. And I'll tell you, as a lawyer representing church after church, there are far too many liberal cities that are discriminating against only one religion, and that's Christianity. And that needs to stop. So legislation that I will proudly sponsor needs to be passed to ensure that if an individual or religious entity is discriminated against, that they have the ability to prosecute that discriminatory act and ensure that they have the compensation, the ability to further the legal fees, because cases are expensive, so that we can get back to the values, the traditional values, the nuclear family that this country was founded on. So once we pass those 4 pieces of legislation, guess what? Joe Biden's got to make a choice. Is he going to answer to the American people, or is he going to answer to the radical left and operate as a puppet of the radical left that he has been doing for the past 2 years. Because he either signs those pieces of legislation in or he vetoes them. And you know what I think he's going to do? I think he's going to veto them. Because he doesn't operate as a man of the people like you campaigned on. He operates as a man of the limousine elite liberals that have been operating and guiding him as a puppet for the past 2 years. And that's going to expose him to make sure that in 2024, after taking control of the U.S. Senate, the U.S. House, we win back the United States presidency. So as we look forward, if I'm fortunate enough to be a member of Congress representing the 6th District, you can have one promise. I'm going to be bold, I'm going to be unafraid, and I'm going to represent each and every one of you guys. So when I get there, the DC establishment's going to know my name, AOC and the squad are going to fear my name, and Nancy Pelosi is not going to forget my name. So with that, I will close. Thank you guys very much. Sit down and talk.
Thank you, Jake, very much. All right, folks, we still got a lot of content here. I will tell you that it is now 9:55, and our next speaker is beautiful and smart and witty and all those good things. One quick thing I did, when I talk about recognizing people, there's one person I wrote down, but I don't know if I said her name, and that's Miss Deanna Harris, the president of the Cobb Young Republicans. She's in the house back there. So thank you for being here this morning, Deanna, and I just always want to be sure and touch on everyone. Well, mention their name.
Nice.
Sorry. I'd like to introduce to you, if you don't already know her, the beautiful, smart, talented, legal-minded Miss Meagan Hansen.
As Sallie said, and thank you for those very kind words, I should have just kept her up here. As Sallie said, I'm Meagan Hansen, running for Georgia's 6th Congressional District. Y'all hang on, because this is not going to be your typical campaign speech. But there's one line that I say every single time I speak, so you've probably heard it before, and that I'm a wife, a mother of 2, an attorney, and a former state representative from the Sandy Springs area, the only person to take out a Democrat incumbent in the Atlanta metro area since 2016. Now, I've spoken here quite a few times, and you may all have noticed that very few of my speeches overlap. And I know that I've told you before, that's because I pray every single time before I speak, and I ask God to tell me what to say. I've asked him to use me as a vessel. And so for this meeting, I had a little bit more time to prepare. And so I started praying early on for God to reveal what he wanted me to say today. I'll be honest, before that, I had quite a few little attack lines prepared. But I received a daily devotional from Rick Warren. It's called The Daily Hope with Rick Warren, and I encourage all of you to check it out. And I've been receiving this for about a decade now. I have found that God uses this devotional to basically tell me different things at different times in my life. And when he uses these devotionals to get my attention, it's not a gentle tug. It is jarring, abrupt, and sometimes literally life-changing. For example, the other day I was struggling with how to handle a situation related to my campaign and the potential effect of an external third party. Literally that day, the daily devotional that I received, God was saying, just be real. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so that we can do good things he planned for us long ago. And that's Ephesians 2:10. That verse gave me peace to handle the situation exactly as I thought I should, because it was me being true to who I am. Now back to preparing for this meeting, I initially wondered what all I was going to say to you to convince you to vote for me, to support me in this journey. Do I talk about my experience in the state house, my motivations for running? Do I tell you war stories about when I beat a Democrat incumbent? Or do I talk about my policy positions? Well, Jesus said no, because I asked him to use me in this journey, on this campaign trail, and in my life. And 2 Corinthians 4:5 says, our message is not about ourselves. It's about Jesus Christ as Lord. We are servants for his sake. I know I'm not the center of the universe. This election, even my campaign, it's not about me. It's about Jesus and how we need to put our focus back on him. And I'll take what Congressman Loudermilk said a step further. He said we need to focus on liberty and life and pursuit of happiness. Who gave us that? God. We need to return our focus back to God. Because I know I don't have to tell you we're in a mess. We all know that. I don't have to go to the border to know it's wide open and that millions of people are coming across it. I don't have to be a biologist to know how to define woman. I don't have to be a teacher to know that teaching 5-year-olds about sexual preferences is just flat out wrong. We are under attack as Christians, as conservatives, even simply as Americans. And this is a mess that no one man can fix. We don't need a human savior. We have an actual savior. And we need Jesus and to return our focus back to him. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that God has chosen me to be the next congresswoman from the 6th district. I actually hate it when people say stuff like that in campaign speeches. But I will tell you why I believe that the Lord has prepared me to serve at this specific time of my life for 2 reasons. First, when you look at all of the 9 candidates running in the 6th district, I'm the only one who has experience of doing the job of a congressperson, reading, writing, and passing legislation. We don't need someone who wants to be another talking head in Washington. There's enough hot air up there. We need people who are willing to and able to do the work. As a freshman legislator, I served on more committees than any other freshman. Why? Because leadership knew I would do the work. I was assigned to special subcommittees, passed more legislation, and served in leadership role as a freshman because my colleagues knew I would do the work. During COVID, when other states, including this one, had just shut down, I got to work thinking of ways that we could keep the state open. I immediately began drafting what would become the COVID Liability Protection Act. You may have seen the signs posted on doors and hospitals across the state. This provided immunity for small businesses and our healthcare providers from frivolous lawsuits related to the transmission of COVID. I can't tell you how many times small business owners came and thanked me for working on this because it gave them the confidence to keep their doors open and keep servicing Georgians. It took a lot of work, but I am forever grateful that my former colleagues in the House and Senate passed this bill. The second reason that I think the Lord has prepared me at this time is that I'm now a mother. When I served in the state house, of course I cared about children, but I'm a mom now, and I'll be honest, if you're parents, you know that this changes things. I am forever linked to the future of our country now, and that means that I will fight for my kids. I will fight for your kids. I will fight for our grandkids and their futures. And if you don't think so, well, buddy, I got news. It's true. I would love your vote on May 24th. But I ask even more that you pray earnestly about who we should be sending to DC. Not only in this race, but all of them. Sure, we need fighters, but what we really need are warriors for Christ. Because if they're warriors for Christ, they're going to be warriors for you. Pray for all of the candidates and their family. Yes, even my opponents. Pray that they stay true to themselves and seek office with a servant's heart. I know I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Meagan. You know, there's a lot of talent in the 6th district, right? I mean, you can almost feel like with all these candidates that they are definitely motivated. They are definitely hungry to serve. And so thank you, all you 6th district people. All right. We have to be out of here by 10:30 sharp. So if anyone has any announcements, you can go ahead and line up when I talk about the announcements that we have at the headquarters. Anybody know what Tuesday is? Yes, election. HD 45. We need help. If you don't have a candidate, if you live in the district, if you don't have a candidate, at least please just get out and door knock, make phone calls, do all those kinds of things to get out the vote. Next Saturday, April the 9th, is the Big Shaney Festival. We have a booth at the Big Shaney Festival thanks to Ellen Springer, our treasurer. She donated her booth so that we could be there. And so if you have not seen a sign up, if you'd like to sign up, please do that. Also on Saturday, we have voter registration with Greater Georgia. That's going to be in Smyrna. You can't wear your Republican gear because, the election rules and that kind of thing. But we would love to have people come out and register voters. That's something the Democrats do all the time. I hate to be reactive instead of proactive, so let's be proactive and register voters. Then again on Sunday, April the 10th, we're again at the Big Shaney Festival. That's from 10 to 5. And then April 25th, is Audrey here this morning? No, Audrey. Okay, April 25th, it's a Monday. There's a school board candidate event. We have 2 candidates running as Republicans, Stephen George and Anthony Sears for post 2. There will be an event with them. Anybody know what May 5th is? Nope, that's April 5th. May 5th is the Cobb prayer breakfast. So we'll be attending that. Would hope that everyone would be willing to sign up for that because I can't think of a better time to pray for our county. Then here, next month, on May the 7th, is our next breakfast. We will be here again, and we will have Herschel Walker, Susie Boyles, and Patrick Witt. So that's definitely one you won't want to miss. On Monday, May the 9th, with the Franklin Roundtable, Trevor Loudon will be here across the street. So we hope you'll join us for that. Okay. Have I missed anything? Pam usually tells me if I missed something. Okay.
Voter or poll training, poll workers, need poll workers, April the 11th.
Yes, poll workers, poll training. We have Georgia Victory working with us too. We've got a war game, a new system on the day of the election on the 5th. So that'll be interesting. You'll want to hear more about that. So, and we're going to have Christine Rosman now come up and then the rest of our speakers, and I'll wave my hands when it's time to go.
Good morning, I'm Christine Rosman. I'm with the Cobb GOP Government Accountability Task Force. If you have not been to a Board of Commissioners meeting, you might want to start. If you want to raise your blood pressure, have your blood boil, you might just want to look at that little piece of paper I put at each table and the link to the gala event that they just had. It was a Cobb Board of Commissioners State of the County. And I don't think there were many citizens there. It was, but her Jackie McMorris, who's our county manager, she said, it's like a family reunion because it was the Atlanta Regional Commission. It was the other chairs, commissioner chairs from other counties that they're trying to emulate. Gwinnett, Henry counties. So if you don't know the direction the Cobb's going, you need to get, it will spill it out on this. At 1 hour is when Chairwoman Lisa Cupid starts speaking. If you look at that video, but you'll also get a touch of what's going on with the Atlanta Regional Commission. I should stop now. But anyway, you need to go. But what you really need to do is after, on the 11th, on Monday the 11th, after you go to training, the next morning, go over to the Board of Commissioners meeting for their 9 o'clock Tuesday morning Board of Commissioners meeting, because we need to really get vocal, to let them know. I'm not saying get aggressive. I'm not saying anything other than we need to be present so that they know that we don't want Unified Development Code, that we don't want SPLOST, that we don't want MARTA coming through here, and that we don't want to look exactly like the rest of Metro Atlanta, because we're getting hijacked. So my email is on there. If you're planning on going, please contact me. It would be great to have some good conservative, concerned citizens representing Cobb.
Thank you.
My name is Jim Jess. I'm Chairman of Franklin Roundtable. I wanted to announce that 2 weeks from today, on April the 16th, a Saturday, we'll be across the street at the Cobb County Republican headquarters, and we will be having the 4th session of our class, Constitution Alive, with Rick Green and David Barton. So if you haven't been to the previous sessions, that's okay, because every time you sit through one of these sessions, it's a video class. We play the video, and then we'll stop it and have discussion. So this next session we'll be getting into, continuing with enumerated rights and the powers of Congress, then we'll be getting into the executive branch and the president. So please join us if you'd like to. You can go to register at cobbgop.org. We're co-sponsoring it with the Cobb County Republican Party. So please join us for that if you can. That's Saturday, April the 16th. And as Salliegh mentioned, on May the 9th, that is a Monday night at 7 o'clock, again, across the street, we will have Trevor Loudon come and speak. Now, I don't know if you know him, but he's actually from New Zealand. He's a real, he's an author. He's made some videos. He's exposed a lot of the influence of communists on the U.S. government. And he's going to talk about China's war on the South. So he's going to go into how the Chinese Communist Party is influencing the Democratic Party in southern states in campaigns like the campaign of Stacey Abrams and others. So this will be very illuminating. Again, 7 o'clock, May the 9th. And then finally, I wanted to mention something since Joe Biden our tyrant in chief, had come out and said he supports reassignment surgery, gender surgery for minors. What a travesty. Well, let me just remind you that Representative Jenny Earhart, a couple years ago, introduced the Vulnerable Child Protection Act. So we can pick this up and pass it in Georgia. It's too late for this session. Next year, we ought to pass that, because we need to push back against this tyranny from Washington that somebody thinks it's a good idea that minors should have sex change operations. That's absolutely so wrong. We can do something about it. Again, Vulnerable Child Protection Act, we should pick that up. Talk to your legislators about that. That's something we need to fix. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Nancy Couch, and I'm proud to be the president of the largest Republican Women's Club in the state of Georgia, and we are continuing to inspire, inform, and include this year. So on April 22nd, our next lunch event, we're going to be behind the scenes of the Golden Dome, so it'll be an overview of what happened at the legislative session, and we're also going to be honoring our retiring Senator Lindsey Tippins, so you don't want to miss that. But our biggest event that the Cobb Republican Women Club has hosted for the last 25 years is a candidate forum, conversation with the candidates. That's going to be May 2nd at the historic Marietta Strand Theater. It's going to be all of our statewide candidates there with a special host and moderator, Benita Cotton Orr, who's formerly with the Georgia Public Foundation. So you're going to absolutely want to be there. And their first annual peach poll. So only women are going to vote in it, but at the end of the night, you'll know what women think and who women are going to vote for and what their preference is for our candidates at the end. So you don't want to miss our first ever peach poll. And then on May 20th, we'll be honoring our military for Armed Forces Day and Memorial Day. And we're going to have U.S. Congressman Austin Scott. Do you know that in Washington, we only have one congressman from Georgia that's on the Armed Service Committee? So we need to make sure that we honor our veterans, honor our military, and join us on May 20th. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. Y'all have been really patient to still be here after all the speeches. I'm Kay Kirkpatrick, State Senator for District 32, and my campaign is called Kay for Senate. I am running again, and I appreciate all y'all showing up. I feel like I don't need to say that because all of y'all are going to show up. I just want to mention a few things that we've been doing down under the Gold Dome. We've got one day left. Day 40 is Monday, So you should still live in fear until we get finished with our session. I do have some good news to report. Some of you may have heard about the Mental Health Bill 1013, which came across from the House, not in good shape. And the Senate, I'm happy to report that we fixed it. It's good now. And it's a conservative bill that does not overreach like the original bill did. So very happy about that. I also want to report that we passed constitutional carry yesterday. On the way to the governor. We've passed legislation in the Senate on parental rights, divisive concepts, vaccine mandates, mask mandates. We're cutting taxes. We're supporting the law enforcement back in the blue. We passed a ban on telemedicine abortion in the Senate, and that's good in the House. I was very proud to be honored by CPAC this year for my conservative voting record as being tied for first in the General Assembly. And even more importantly, my caucus honored me at our Day 39 dinner this week and gave me a coffee mug. I should have brought it with me. It says, "I will never apologize for being right." So thank you all. Stay tuned. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you on the campaign trail. Thanks.
Hey guys, I'm Ed Setzer, a husband, father of 4, business leader, veteran, running for state Senate District 37. I've been serving the state house in Northwest Cobb, Ackworth, Kennesaw for a number of years. I know many of you folks. Just honored to be able to serve. Honored to be a fighter and a winner on behalf of the conservative cause at the state capitol. I don't pick fights, but I've learned how to fight and win. And we're fighting and winning them for you. Have a high energy campaign. My campaign manager's with us here. I'd actually come take an yard sign, get involved in our campaign. We're doing door to door. We're taking it to our neighbors because we believe that West Cobb deserves bold, aggressive, vigorous leadership on behalf of our values, the state capitol, and that's what I want to offer you. And that's how I would endeavor to serve. And I would ask for your vote in May 24th primary. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm the newly elected chair of House District 43, Sue Marshall. Every vote in our House district is changed from the redistricting. So we're having a meet and greet on April 12th at Sibley Forest Clubhouse. A lot of you should be getting invitations if you especially live in that district, but please spread the word if you know people in that district to come, to learn what the maps are, what we'll be going to the polls for. And I want to introduce Anna because she will be running as an unopposed House District 43 state rep.
Thank you. I hope you guys can come. In the meantime, you can go to annatillman.com. Compliments of Mike Vitale. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carmithia Moore, and I'm running for House Representative for House District 45. I am running against what would be an incumbent in House District 43, and many people are asking me why. One, I'm a constitutionalist. Two, I heard Loudermilk speak about communism and socialism, and the only way that we get that is one state at a time. And so when I saw bills coming through our legislation that usurp parental rights, the person I'm running against sponsored a bill in 2019, which would allow children to be vaccinated without parental rights. That was in 2019. That woke me up, that shook my spirit. And then when I look at this mental health bill that was also sponsored, it has such vague definition. It basically was a state takeover of children. That bill had language in it that took out imminent threat for a reason to put someone in a mental institution and put reasonable expectation that this person would be a threat. If you can tell me that that is not leading towards communism, I don't know what is.
Amen.
This bill was not sponsored by Democrats. I couldn't sleep for multiple nights, like clutching my pearls, that this bill was pushed out by Republicans. We literally had to go up there day in and day out, make phone calls and fight to get this bill pulled back. We were pointing to who? World Health Organization to tell the state of Georgia how to take care of their children, to how to take care of their mentally ill. This was done by Republicans, not Democrats. So when people say, why would I primary someone who is not standing up for the best interest of Georgia when it comes to those issues. Please take a look at my website. I'm Seymour for Georgia, and I'm here to keep your parental rights, your medical freedoms, to keep your guns, to make sure that you can be true free citizens in the state of Georgia. Thank you.
Good morning, John Bevel, and I'm not anybody but a voter like you are. That's what I told Jack Kingston many years ago when he was running against David Perdue. And the answer to that reason I did that was I said, tell me, Jack, and Jack's a great guy, why should I vote for you, not why I shouldn't vote for David? What I wish our campaigns would do is tell us what you offer us versus what you want to accuse me of. There are lots of bad information out there about Mr. Perdue. I haven't known him in 40 years. Any questions you have about who he is and what he stands for, I'm happy to answer those questions. David is who David is. He doesn't play games. He tells it straight. And if you listen to what's going to come out the next few weeks about what happened in the election, as you heard some this morning, a lot of stuff went on. Some folks stood by and didn't do anything. Some folks were called idiots. They're liars, and it's got to be cleared up. And that's one of David's agendas. I ask that you listen to what's going on. We're not after Mr. Kemp's life. We are after the fact the gentleman did not react, did not do what we should have had him do. He's still a great guy. We're still going to beat Stacey more than she ever thought she would be beaten, and that's our objective. One final note. I live in District 45. Please, if you have friends, neighbors, kids, I had to kick my son out of his house to go vote before he went on spring break. Get them out to vote. The Democrats are voting up. They've got significant absentee ballots they've requested. That's their new game, old game again. Please, if you have anybody who lives in District 45, we need every vote. John Bevel, thank you.
Good morning, Republicans. You know, I love looking out and seeing you, and Salliegh, I love the fact that we have breakfast this morning here because the very first time Republicans had a meeting in this room, I was chairman of the Cobb Republican Party. Darrell, you were there. We were, and we had a precinct caucus and a convention over a decade ago in this room. And I'm excited because I've been involved. I've been helping folks get elected for 3 decades. And now, I've never been on the ballot before, but this time I'm on the ballot. Scott Johnson for State Senate District 37 with the incumbent Lindsey Tippins said his goodbyes in the state Senate. He said, he told the Senate, keep education first. I've been doing that at the State Board of Education, chairing that and serving there for Republican governors for nearly 10 years. In 2021, way ahead of some states, we passed a resolution against critical race theory. We passed a resolution that said it is illegal to discriminate against students or to take a political agenda forward, anyone's political agenda forward that discriminates in any way. And I stand by that. I'm going to take that fight to the Gold Dome with you. And I want your support and your vote for State Senate District 37 West Cobb. Look forward to seeing you, being with you, and being your senator. Thank you.
Hi, Stan Fitzgerald, Veterans for America First. We're also working on several campaigns here in Georgia. I know you heard from Scott and Ed. but we are supporting David Delk for the same district, State 37. David was here, but got called away on urgent business. So please check out his website. It's delkforgeorgia.com, delkforgeorgia.com. And please engage him when you see him, talk to him, listen to his policies. We'd appreciate you checking him out.
Okay, well, I hope everyone had a great time at breakfast this morning. I hope you found something informative and something that you're passionate about. Let me tell you what House Bill 1013 taught me is that praying isn't enough. Poll watching is not enough. You have to get out there and engage and work at it. And every single bill that goes through our legislature needs to be read. It needs to be read by our representatives, and it needs to be read by you. So please get engaged. I'm here to serve you guys. So please let me know how I can serve you. And if we can, I'd just like to dismiss in prayer very quickly, if that's all right. Heavenly Father, we love, we adore, and we worship you, and we thank you for giving us the voice of freedom right now for such a time as this. We don't know how much longer we have to be able to exercise our freedoms because there is a darkness over America, and if we do not fight back, if we do not take control, and if we do not hold people accountable, we are headed in the wrong direction. You are the ultimate hope. You are the one that can turn the ship, but we have to do our part. So let us all leave this place in agreement that we will work together for America in your name and in your honor. Let us treat everyone the way that we want to be treated. Let's be kind. Let's speak good things. Do good deeds. Amen.